So, Mark, we both traveled this weekend. Welcome to MTM Travel. How was Chicago in the Christmas markets?
It was actually pretty good weather. I mean, Friday night was a bit cold, but Saturday was pretty sunny and no snow or anything, so we didn't have to worry about the roads driving there or back. So that was nice, but it's a long drive. I don't know. Like once you get to like 5 hours, over 3 hours, I'm kind of like I don't. We should have flown.
Yeah, I was in Long Beach this weekend for our meetup, and kind of a similar thing. I drove down, which is about 4.5 hour drive, and a lot of people make that flight, and a lot of people thought I was crazy for driving down for the weekend.
Yeah, I think if it was just me, I would have flown for sure. But with the family, it's even if you find a good rate, like let's say 7,500 AA miles each way, you're still outlaying a big chunk of miles, 60K. So to drive, it's $100 in gas or whatever. It just makes way more sense. So we still do it, but everybody on the way back was like, I don't need to go to Chicago for a while.
Yeah, it's great to do it, though. We both did it, had a great meetup. I just want to do a shout out to all the MTM Diamond members, 70 people showing up in Long Beach. And we both do great meetups and get to meet all kinds of amazing people in this hobby. I think that's the best part of the job, right?
Yeah, I think it's fun. I've created a lot of friendships. I know you have too through these meetups and meeting people and done other trips outside of meetups with them. And it kind of grows from there. And finding people that have the same interests as you is a big key to all this. And it makes it easier. You can chat with them, bounce ideas off of them, all that type of stuff, which you can't find like just in your nucleus of friends around your house. Maybe you find a few that mix in there, but for the most part, it's like you need that release a little bit of somebody that understands what you're going through.
Yeah, some of the conversations that happen are just insane if you view them from the scope of the outside world. Any destination you can talk about, obviously some nerdy talk about earning miles and points and all of the stuff that people are doing. But as you say, you can find people that have the similar interests, and this really is a great way to expand yourself in the lifestyle if you can find a network and people to do it. And I think meetups, we both have groups and we both do meetups, but I think just the overall space has gotten better, friendlier. Certainly, I guess we're biased, but that's our goal when we have meetups, is to bring people together and to forge these friendships instead of like, yeah, I've been doing this forever. I know everything. You're new. You're stupid. I don't want to talk to you.
The douchebag keyboard warriors usually stay behind the screen, so you don't have to worry about it.
So we have a lot to talk about this week. And I guess we'll talk about Chicago a little bit for your trip. And in Long Beach, I did a few things that we can talk about as well. We did some whale watching and some cool things. And I did want to talk about that area in Long Beach too, where the Hyatt Regency and Hyatt Centric are, because a lot of people didn't know it and they were surprised coming there. I chose it because it's very walkable. It's like right along the water. There's the boats leave there, the whale watching tours, all that. You have the Queen Mary right there as well. But there's tons of bars and restaurants right on the water. The hotels, everything is walkable. An old 1920s carousel. We did a carousel takeover, Mark. I know you're heartbroken that you weren't there for that.
Yeah, totally. I mean,
Nothing like a bunch of adults taking over a carousel. It's a beautiful thing.
yeah, something unique and you wouldn't do with a big group otherwise. So, that's the fun thing about meetups. You always do something random, unexpected.
But if you are in that area, if you're going to LA and you want somewhere that's kind of cool and unique and an interesting place to base yourself, that's walkable and a lot of neat things around, I do think Long Beach is great. And I feel like it's a little underrated. And I know they've had some issues over the years with, the area being not so nice, but it seems like they cleaned it up a lot. It's really beautiful there. And so I definitely want to suggest people do that. And it seemed like everybody who came was a little bit surprised and everybody had a great time. They loved it. And there's so many great bars there along the water, great places to sit. And it's a beautiful place.
Yeah, we had thought about stopping in Long Beach on our way when I was going to do my trip with my son in June, and originally we were going to fly into San Diego and swim with the sharks there that happened, but we were a little bit early, so we pivoted and did the VIP experience in LA at Universal instead, and just kind of kept it simpler, which was probably better. It would have been exhausting, but the original goal was flying to San Diego, swim with the sharks, the next day drive up, maybe stay at like Long Beach and stuff and check out all the towns on the way, and then spend a night in Santa Monica, something like that, and fly home. So it worked out a little bit better that we weren't as exhausted as we probably would have been, but I was definitely eyeing that area as a potential spot to stay that second night.
And before we move on from this, she probably won't ever watch this, but I do need to give a shout out to Jasmine, my wife, for planning these events. She plans all the diamond events, and what a lifesaver she is.
Oh yeah, Jasmine's always a good time, so I'm sure she brings the fun.
So on a recent show, we talked about those no lifetime language offers, and we went into what those are, so people can check that out if you have any questions about what they are. But you talked about the 200K business gold after 10K spend and how you and your wife had done it. And of course, I got FOMO as we recorded that, so I got right off and applied for it and got one of them for myself. So yeah, that 200K offer, 10K spend, it's a no-brainer if you're targeted.
Yeah, I think it's really the best offer out there. I mean, there's the 250K Biz Platinum, but that requires more spend, a higher annual fee, all of that stuff. And the Biz Gold has been, I mean, the annual fee just went up, but it's been pretty easy to redeem that $20 at office stores. They said gift cards shouldn't work, but for the most part, it does. I just buy a $20 Target gift card online. They could claw that back at any time. I understand that, but I've been going for a while with that, and it's been working. So that knocks $240 off if you value that at 1-to-1, which I do because we shop at Target so much. So it's a really great offer. I do think that those links have died I think like on Sunday. We're recording this. It's going to get released on Monday, but I think they died on Sunday. So unfortunately, until we find some new ones, maybe you'll find it in your Amex offers in your account when you log in, something like that. But if you get it, jump on it if you can complete that spend.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that even if these links exist and these offers are out there, they're not going to be out there forever. The links do die, things come and go. But, it's good to analyze this stuff as it comes, even if we pass on an offer, because then you can mentally do the gymnastics and decide quicker next time or kind of forge your plan. So it always works out to kind of look at this stuff, determine whether you want to do it, even if you miss out. And it's going to happen. I mean, doing this long enough, you're going to miss out on offers. There's going to be things you think about just a little bit too long, and then you have FOMO. It happens so often.
Yeah, and I had a plan until the end of the year, and then these came out. So I added that, and that's another 20K in spend we got to do. And I had grabbed 2 surpasses because we had the Hilton business card, and my plan was always have 4 Hilton cards, get 4 free night certs off of each of them, 15K in spend every year. We each had a surpass, we each had a Hilton Biz, but with the changes of the business card, it's kind of worthless now. There's no more 15K free night. So we each signed up for a second surpass in the last like 3-4 weeks. So we were trying to plow through that 15K before the end of the year, which is going to be close. And now we threw another 20K. So we're looking at 50K in spend over, a 3-4 month period, which is insane. And I'm, kicking myself a bit because you're like, I just want to take a break.
Yeah, and that's a lesson to learn. Now, obviously, you're up to the challenge. We know that. You've been doing this a long time. So while you're kicking yourself a little bit, you'll be able to do it and it won't be insurmountable. But for other people, this is a good lesson because you don't want to get yourself in a position where you're scrambling to spend, or God forbid you miss the welcome offer because you don't hit the spend.
Yeah, that's important. Or if you like overspend on things you wouldn't otherwise just to hit the bonus, stuff like that. Like, you got to pair it out. I'm hoping that we can get our taxes done fairly early, and maybe I can put some of that on a business gold and hit that. But usually I don't get it together. I hate tax season, especially as a travel person, because you have to keep every receipt from every trip. I mean, like any other business that you own. So it's just time consuming to get that all together.
So let's pivot here. Did you see this? There was a congressional hearing with Josh Hawley talking to the CEOs of Frontier and Spirit about baggage fees and stuff like that. And they kind of get into the commission system that they are setting up for employees at the gates when they're checking the bags. So if you ever wondered why the employees are so aggressive in checking the bags and trying to force you into paying for the bag, I had this happen, or Jasmine had this happen last year when she went to Memphis. She was flying Spirit, and at the gate, her bag, I know for a fact, was under the size. They still charged her it at the gate, and then we had to dispute it later. They paid their agents $26 million over just like the last 2 years for these fees in commissions alone.
Yeah, and I think they get like up to $10 per bag charged there. So I could see it, but if it fits in the thing that they have sitting there next to the desk, they shouldn't be able to charge like that. That should be a lawsuit or something. That's kind of crazy, taking it to the next level. I still think a lot of them are indifferent to it. They don't care that much. They did stop my wife once because her backpack was like overflowing. So she had to take stuff out and shove it into my daughter's bag and stuff like that. So we got it down, and they were just like sitting there staring at her. And it was like just animosity going both ways. It's not a great system. I don't know. Just let it be. Like if you can get on and if it can fit under a seat, what does it matter if it's on your back? But it is crazy. And I mean, this isn't anything different than you see other places. When I worked at Kmart, you used to get a, if you could sell those like the $5 things for a video game, the replacement insurance thing, you got like $2 or $3. So we always tried to push those.
Yeah, I remember going to Circuit City back in the day, and they really sucked because everybody was on commission and nobody would tell you the truth. That's why Best Buy did better because they weren't paying commissions. You could at least get an honest answer. Maybe not good advice because they didn't know what they were talking about. But
Yeah.
anyway, commissions do change things. But as you say, like the experience for a customer, it gets super aggressive. And I had said on the show before, I hadn't seen Frontier be super aggressive about this. But then I realized I was boarding early. I was always boarding in group one. And when I went to Salt Lake City a month or two ago, I got to the airport a little late. So I just waited till the end of boarding to get on the plane. And I watched this process happen. And they were so aggressive with the people. I mean, every single person in line putting it in there. If it stuck out a little bit, they had people taking stuff out of bags, like putting shirts on themselves so that they could get it down into the thing. And yeah, on one hand, they want to protect their revenue. But remember, too, if this happens at the gate, they're charging you significantly more. This is how they're paying the commission. So not only is the company making more money, the person's making more money. So they have incentive to kind of screw you at the gate. I guess just pay for your bags, do it the right way. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's why I kind of like the low cost carriers because they charge less to check the bags. So a lot of people do that. And then the boarding is usually a lot quicker because there's less carry-ons. Deplaning is quicker because there's less people grabbing your bag. I mean, the worst part of flying for me is when you land, you're at the gate and you're waiting to get off. It takes 10 minutes to hook up the door or whatever, open it. But then you see all these people that were standing in the aisle that entire time, like start reaching for their bags and struggling to get them out. It's like, what were you doing for 10 minutes? Like, get them out, hand them to the people in line. Like, let's get this thing moving.
Yeah, they just stand there. And yeah, I get up because I like to stand. People, I've seen these memes on the internet. Why do people stand up, when the plane gets there, sit down and wait your turn? I stand up because I want to stretch my legs. I like to get in there, but I also bring my bags down so that they're ready to go. And the minute that I have that free thing, I'm off the plane. And that's always a good thing. Why is it that Southwest seems to be the worst with carry-on bags when they have free check bags? But I swear to God, getting on and off of Southwest flights is the worst. I mean, there's so many people with so many bags, and I don't know. That's the worst airline for me. What's the one for you that like getting on and off takes forever?
I mean, I think they're all kind of the same, like Southwest, American, stuff like that. And that's the joy of if you do have status and you're upgraded to first class or Comfort Plus, it's so much quicker of a process. And usually the people that are flying in those areas, are more seasoned travelers. They kind of know the gist of it and everything. But at times I'm like, do you want me to grab that for you and like take it down? Because this is a 3-minute process and you're just waiting, for them to get moving. And then the other people that are terrible are the ones that try to run past you or whatever. I like just stand in the middle and block because I'm like, what are we doing here? Why are you trying to barrel through for one lane or one row? Like just wait your turn.
Yeah, and obviously there's the people when you land and you first get there, they're trying to run up the aisle. But then there's people that don't even want to respect the row thing. We're 3 people generally. We have a kid, so I'll get down a couple of pieces of luggage, but there's not enough space for everything. So you still got to grab a bag or two. And then the people behind you that are trying to push past you as you're doing that, it's there's all the pressure of it. I don't know, but just wait your turn. I mean, literally, you're talking about 30 seconds of your life. Just wait.
It's so rude and I don't know. But yeah, we had a similar run in when we went to Orlando. It does seem to happen more often on the low cost carriers. Part of that's probably just people not being used to flying and you're dealing with the bus of the sky, but it does seem to happen more often there. It just kind of what's coming, so you just kind of deal with it.
Now, on the flip side, the other thing people complain about when you land is the clapping. And I love the clapping. I've been on several flights. I haven't been on a flight in a while where they clapped when we landed.
I haven't either.
But I remember my first Spirit flight, actually, 2007 to Guatemala City. And it was obviously full of Guatemalans, but I don't know if it's cultural there or whatever. But the entire plane, when we landed, there wasn't turbulence or anything. That's generally when I've experienced it in like a rough flight, people clap. But yeah, everybody got down and it was like a roaring ovation. That was the first time I experienced it. And I don't know. It's kind of fun to celebrate landing on the ground unless you're doing it for, I don't know, dark reasons. Like you're glad you didn't crash.
Well, I think that's some of it. I think it is a cultural thing. Like some people don't trust flying, and it's not the safest. And maybe the airlines in their country aren't the safest, and they have those issues. So anytime they do land, they get excited and clap. I don't know. It's kind of like clapping at the end of a movie. I don't know. It just happens, but I don't get it.
It's a group experience though. So if you're on a plane and everybody claps, clap along with them and celebrate.
No,
You made it somewhere cool. You are traveling, and hey, so many people in the world can't travel.
you could
So
be laying
celebrate.
over in Atlanta. That's not cool. I don't want to clap for that.
Okay, don't clap for Atlanta, but anywhere else you can clap for. So let's move on to your trip to Chicago this weekend. We talked about you driving down there, and we've kind of hinted at the Christmas markets, which was sort of the crux of why you went. But I'm sure a family vacation to Chicago, you did a lot more than that.
Yeah, we wanted to go check out the Christmas markets. One of the last episodes we did together on this podcast before coming back was about the Christmas travel, the Christmas market trip that I did with my wife for her birthday, and just she loved it, and it was probably our best trip ever. So we wanted to recreate that a bit, maybe get the kids involved, have them experience it, but we didn't have time to go to Europe or anything. So we had heard Chicago has the best ones in the U.S. Buddy Dave that lives there goes every year and said, it's pretty solid or whatever. So we were excited. That was the main reason to go there, and we filled it in with other things. I originally booked it in part because the Thompson, which was my favorite Cat 4 hotel probably in the U.S. at the time, was going up to a Cat 5. So I wanted to book that in one last time at 15,000 points. I might have even gotten it for 12 because it was off peak. But I wanted to set that up. So I booked that whenever was it, March, February, when Hyatt does their category changes. So I just picked a weekend in December, said, hey, we can go for like Christmas markets. My wife's birthday is at the end of December. My kids are end of October, mid-November. So it's like kind of like a combined birthday trip. I don't know. But we did all that, and I was excited to go back to the Thompson. I was excited for the Christmas markets. And both of those things were nowhere near as good as we had expected or hoped for. But we did do some other cool stuff too.
Yeah, I saw you shared on Twitter that the Thompson, you're kind of over it now and not as disappointed that it went up because it doesn't sound like you're rushing to go back.
Yeah, it was, it's a really boutique hotel. I love the Thompson brand, probably my favorite Hyatt brand, just like Conrad's my favorite Hilton brand. Similar design, taste, woodwork, dark colors, all that type of stuff. Just it speaks to me a little bit more like, and I think the quality of Thompson's on a good level, near Park Hyatt, but usually a couple steps down so you can get a deal. And I think there's a bit to, be had there where you can't get with Park Hyatt. That's usually like top tier type stuff. So for 15,000 points, getting this versus the Park Hyatt, a couple blocks away, I think it was well worth it. But we checked in, we got there at like 3. I had used a suite upgrade award because I had one that was going to expire. So we booked that, and we go to check in, and they say, hey, it's not ready, but we are going to give you, it's a substantial upgrade, which I'm like, well, I already upgraded to a suite, but okay, so next level suite. And I know they have a 2-story suite there, so I'm kind of figuring that's what we're going to get. And I'm like, okay, no problem. We'll go to the Starbucks Reserve, which is really cool if you've never been. On our way back, we got a call that it was ready. So we go check in, everything. There's only 2 elevators in this hotel, and one was not fully working. Penthouse, of course, on the top floor. It was like a Vegas experience all weekend, which was kind of horrible.
I experienced some elevator issues at the Centric in Long Beach as well. There's 2 elevators, they're slow. And it does start to wear you. I was only on the 4th floor, thankfully, and it's like 8 or 9 stories. But it does start. Yeah, exactly. It does start to, I did a couple of times. It does start to wear you out. Elevator situations are something that I think a lot of people who don't travel often don't think about. But when you do it a lot, it can get so tedious waiting for elevators over and over and over again.
Yeah, and when I go to New York, I usually try to stay on the 2nd or 3rd floor because of the elevator issues there and how big those properties are, and they never have enough elevators. Well, this one, I never noticed it before, but this was much busier than the last couple times we went to Chicago. I think we went in October and May of a couple years ago, and this was Christmas season. It's kind of similar to New York, how New York, Christmas in New York is crazy, and we did that once. I don't want to go back for that. I didn't expect to be as much in Chicago, but similar feelings there. And being on the 22nd floor, the top floor, coming down, we literally stopped at 10 floors on the way down, and we had already filled up by the time we hit like 17. So we're just stopping, and people are going, oh, can't get in there. Oh, and keep going down. it got to the point that people were walking upstairs, going up a couple floors to be able to get on before it filled up. It was kind of nuts, but they finally got that working the last day a little bit, but it was still at checkout was bad. But the worst part was the restaurant, Tavern on Rush. Yeah, Tavern on Rush had just come into the Hyatt, somewhat of a big name in that area. My buddy calls it the Viagra Triangle. I guess that's well known in in Chicago. The Thompson location's great, right off Rush, and tons of steakhouse, high end restaurants all around it. More of like a local type feel versus being on the Magnificent Mile. And I guess a lot of older men and younger women go there to dine and drink and sugar daddies, all that type of stuff. So that's why it's called Viagra Triangle. But this was a popular place that closed down a couple years ago, and then Hyatt brought it in there. They used to have a restaurant there that had really great breakfast, and then they had a lobby bar behind the stairs when you first walk in. It was a beautiful lobby bar, atrium area, greenery growing up the side, and they took all that out, to make overflow space for the Tavern on Rush, and it looks like crap now. And it looks like a Marriott, nicer, but like what you get at a Marriott, going to the buffet, like the room that you sit in where it's just tables, no artwork, no nothing. They're like, oh, do you want to sit back in the atrium? We're like, okay. And we go back there and there's curtains everywhere. Like they don't want to be associated with the hotel in some way, even though it's a part of the hotel. And it brings in a ton of people that aren't staying at the hotel and just fills up the lobby, which is small. It's just crammed. It's crappy. And then they really pissed me off at breakfast, Shawn.
Okay, well, a lot going on here. So they converted the atrium into extra restaurant space, but this was a space you liked before, so they just basically ruined the whole vibe of the atrium
Yes.
and made it into the restaurant.
Yeah, and I'll send video to you that you can throw up here on for YouTube. But it's like, and there's a curtain now. When you walk in the lobby, there's a curtain blocking that view. You used to look straight at the bar, and you'd see the greenery in the back, and light would come in from the atrium. And then off to the right is the restaurant when you first enter the hotel, and they have a curtain closed there too. And you're like, what is this? This looks so cheap and tacky. But it's like them saying, well, we don't want you to know there's a hotel there because we're a fancy restaurant or whatever. And it doesn't look that much better than it did before when it was like a cafe type of place. So anyway, that's all going on. And there's just tons of people all around at night. And they're overflowing into the little bit seating area they have. The lobby just doesn't feel the same. It feels way more compact. And then we go to sit down for breakfast. We get down there at like 9:50. They gave us a little card that said you can have one entree and one drink, and that's all you get, which is different. And I'm like already thinking, okay, so this must not be a Hyatt restaurant anymore. You usually just bill back to your room and they wipe it off. We sit down, we get the menus and stuff. I put the card on the table, order. The food was pretty good, big portions, all of that. And we go to check out, and she's like, I'm like, I don't know if we bill this to the room or if you take this or what. And she's like, oh, well, you have to order by 10 because it's a different menu from 10 to 11. We open it up a bit more for brunch. So we can't do that.
So they tried to charge you for everything? Is that?
Yeah. It was like $125 and they're trying to charge me. I'm like, okay, so do we have to finish eating by 10? Because we sat down before 10. I can't help that you gave me the wrong menu. Like that's not on me. You saw the card there. It's been on the table the whole time. She's like, well, let me go talk to the manager. And he comes over and tries to explain why they have a different menu from 7 to 10 and then from 10 to on or whatever. And I'm like, I don't care, man. Like I was here before 10. The waitress sucked the whole time. She was terrible. It took like 15, 20 minutes to get a Coke refill. I'm like, what are we talking about here? So he's trying to explain. He's like, I'm just going to let you know that I'm comping it. I'm like, yeah, you're comping it, but you're still going to get paid from Hyatt because you're still going to run it as Globalist. And he's like, well, there's less options. You had some options that weren't on the menu regularly. And I'm like, okay, but some of them were. And the one my wife got, lox, which I know you would love, like a lox spread. That was the most expensive thing, and that was on both menus. So my son got oatmeal. Are you telling me the $14 oatmeal is a problem because it wasn't on the regular menu, but the $22 thing that she got is? It just ruined the whole experience. We didn't even go to breakfast the next day. I said, screw it. We'll buy some protein bars at Target or whatever and get in the car early. I didn't even want to deal with it. It ruined the whole experience.
Yeah, that stinks. And this is a pet peeve of mine. Don't tell me that you're comping something that's already comped. Don't tell me I'm getting something for free. You're doing me a favor for something that was already supposed to be the case. and that frustrating. And in Long Beach, they did a similar thing. They said one entree and one drink. The terms say one hot drink, one cold drink, and an entree. So I don't know if this is a new thing where these hotels are trying to change it, but you should be able to get a hot drink like a coffee, a cold drink like a juice, and an entree. That's what it actually says in the terms.
Yeah, and like if you're getting a small entree and you add a side of potato, like are you going to charge for the potatoes, even though it's less than what it should just they should just make it like a per person credit. You each get 25 bucks, 30 bucks, whatever it be. I don't know. It just seemed like nobody ever seemed to care before, and that's what we've noticed. We talked about the Rio and Vegas, and they use a different company for the breakfast, and how it's always been a hassle and they haggle. I think this is when they're going to a point where they're not running the restaurants internally. It's a whole different thing. Like they probably don't get reimbursed the full amount, or Hyatt doesn't want to pay the full thing. I don't know what it is, but it ruins the experience a bit. And we're seeing more and more of this. And I just think that they're an arrogant restaurant. I would never eat there. It just seems like they want nothing to do with the hotel, but they grabbed that spot because it was open. The breakfast before was just as good, and it was in a smaller little cafe. It was never super busy at night. So you had like a spot as a hotel guest to go. And now, if you want to go there and have a drink before the end of the night, you don't have the lounge bar, the lobby bar anymore. And the main restaurant is completely packed. You can't get in there. So you're just screwing over your guests.
Yeah, I've noticed that in other hotels with fancy or famous restaurants, it takes away the vibe of being a guest of the hotel. You don't want your hotel overrun, and especially if you're in a smaller, that's a boutique hotel. It's not a 2,000 room hotel or a conference hotel or anything like that. And I totally get that. You don't want everything to feel hectic when you walk in the door. You want it to feel nice. You want to be able to go to the bar, hang out. You don't want that type of atmosphere. So I do like that area. You said it's only a couple blocks from Park Hyatt, right? I stayed at the Park Hyatt last year. That area was the first time I ever stayed in that general area. And like you say, it is a much more local vibe. And really, I don't know, it felt very safe and clean. And I just really love walking around there at night and absolutely enjoyed that area. So I want to stay in there more often when I go to Chicago because, I mean, it's an expensive area for sure, but it's great.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're a foodie, I think that's the best area to be with all the dining and steakhouses they have and stuff. And it doesn't feel touristy at all. I feel like if you're going into a restaurant or a bar, the tourist level, where if you're on the Mag Mile, it's, probably like 80-90%. Here, it's probably like 30-40 if I was going to guess. And I think the next time we go, we'll probably say, I think it's the Ambassador, which is a bit north of there and maybe outside that area, but that's the last Cat 4 that's north of, the Mag Mile area where the Hyatt Centric and Regency and all that stuff is. So I think that's what we'll try next time, see how it is. Or maybe I'll just spring for the Park Hyatt if I'm not feeling so cheap.
You will like the Park Hyatt. I know just because of your sort of taste and, like what you like. The Park Hyatt is great. So for people, Park Hyatt Chicago, Hyatt's based in Chicago. So this is sort of it's not their flagship because I think the New York is still technically their flagship, but they just renovated the entire thing. And I do believe the Chicago was the first Park Hyatt. But anyway, the rooms are super modern, luxurious. It delivers. It's probably, I don't know if it's my favorite Park Hyatt, but it's certainly among my favorites because it delivers on every level. But what is it, a Cat 7, I think?
Yeah, I think it's gone. I think it used to be a Cat 5 a couple of years ago, and there's some value there. And now I think it's quite a bit higher. So I'd rather pay, the 15K or 12K and get a couple nights instead of one night.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I should disclose that I was there at a Hyatt event and they paid for the room. So I didn't pay for it. But, it was it was definitely a lower category because it was long in the tooth. And then they did that full property renovation. The rooms are beautiful. So lots of great options for Hyatt in Chicago. Not a surprise because they are based there, but there are so many Hyatts, it's hard to kind of figure it out. I just like the one in Schaumburg. Just stay in Schaumburg and then category 1, take the train in every day. There you go.
No, thanks. I should talk about the room a bit, in case somebody wants to book into this. It is, you walk in, you have a bathroom off to the left, a little mini bar, and then a big, open area, huge table, a big sectional couch, which is a pull out too. So that was nice. Like one kid slept on the pull out and one kid actually slept on the rest of the couch. There was room for both to do that. So that was nice. And then you take stairs upstairs, a massive king bed. It had to be California king. It just felt way bigger than a normal king, and a bit firm. So not to my liking, but if you like firm beds, I think you'll enjoy it. And just tons of space. And then The bathroom up there had a really modern soaking tub, which was nice, and then the shower and separate toilet. I will say it felt a bit beat up. Like going up the stairs, you saw like paint bubbling and cracking and stains and scuffs all around, and the furniture felt a little bit old. The big table was still in really good condition and was nicer, but it felt a bit dated. I definitely think the regular rooms are nicer there. We stayed there a couple times now, and I would say whatever design aesthetic they have in the regular rooms, they need to bring up to the suites. Maybe that's in the works in the future, but it was a nice setup. The TV in the main living room didn't work. We had to have a guy come up, and he had like a universal or the master remote, turned it on. It worked for then, but then we couldn't turn it off. Like you turned the TV off, but it still had a glow. So we had to unplug it to get it to not be bright in the room. And then when we plugged it back in, the remote wouldn't work again. So we had to call him back up, and he just left us the master remote the second day and was like, here, just keep this. I don't know what's going on with it. But I will say the front desk agents were great. Everybody that came up, we asked for extra pillows and blankets for the pull-out couch because there wasn't anything in there, which I thought was a little bit weird, like nothing in the closet or anything. They brought it up within a couple of minutes. Everything was like within 10 minutes of calling, which is a rarity in hotels. So I think the hotel staff and the way they run it is great. It's just the restaurant is a separate entity, and it ruins the whole hotel now.
So the Christmas markets, you said they were a little disappointing. Anything to add to that?
Yeah, so we went to this. They didn't have them at Wrigley Field. Well, they had like little pop-up tents on the outside of Wrigley Field. So I think that might have been a little bit more fun, a little bit more spacious. This had the feel of Christmas markets in Europe. The huts looked very similar. The stuff they were selling felt similar. The setup, it's just different. You're in between like glass skyscrapers instead of like old school architecture and like 4-story buildings. Now you're looking at, 50-story buildings, stuff like that. So it's a bit different in that way. But the biggest problem is it's cramped. Like you have this little area. It's probably in the size, like the ground space of a normal skyscraper, and thousands of people in there. It's hard to walk around. And our buddy Dave met up with us there, and he's like, "Oh, this is actually not so bad. There's been times that I couldn't move when I got in here. Like I had to walk backwards to get out." And I'm like, it's just not the experience you get in Europe. The markets are a similar size, but they're not spaced out as much. And then if you go to like a Vienna or something, they have a massive market where they spread it out a ton, and then they have like 5, 6, 7 offshoot tiny markets that you can go to, and so it just kind of spreads out the people a bit more. You have more space. This is just cramped. It's hard to like get anything. If you try to get in line for a food or drink or whatever, you have to like fight through people to get over there. So, and everything was 2 to 3 times more than you pay in Europe. Even like the Glühwein, was, I think it was $13 or no, $12 for the collectible cup, and you can refill it, and the refills, Sean, were $11. But I think I want to say we paid either €8 or €10 in Europe for the cup, and then the refills were like €4 cheaper. So if I already bought the cup and I'm coming back in there, it should not be $11. I should not get it out. Why wouldn't I just get another cup? For $1 more. You're telling me this thing's only worth $1 to you? It should be like $8 for a refill. That kind of turned me off. And then all of the knickknacks and stuff for sale, like a regular ornament was like $35, which would be, $10 in Europe. So it was a big money grab, and so clustered and so tight. It wasn't enjoyable. Like after 30 minutes, we were like, all right, you ready to go?
So it sounds like a little bit of a tourist trap where, I guess it's hard, even though like some of it is authentic or it feels a little authentic, the food, the drink, whatever. It's hard to replicate that because, just putting it on a city block doesn't allow you to kind of get the full atmosphere. And anywhere where you have to back out, not good for me. I don't need those crowds.
Yeah, that's what's great. Like Chicago has all these great parks and everything. Why not do it in a park, spread it out a bit? I think that's why I would have maybe liked Wrigley better. They would have had more space on the field, and it'd be cool to just be in a baseball stadium doing this. So maybe we'll have to go back and check that out. But it was so condensed and so hard to move around that it just wasn't enjoy. Like you literally, there was nowhere to just stand and take in your drink unless you stood in the middle of traffic going both ways trying to walk around this thing. And it was just not enjoyable in any way. There was no breathing room, no relaxation. You couldn't, until you left it, you couldn't really get anywhere or do anything. It was just not a great setup. I think if they did it and spread it out, it would have been really enjoyable and something unique. Probably still the best one in the US from what I've seen in research. So if you want that taste of Europe without having to go over there, I think you still have to do it. But there's also other great things that Chicago's known for around Christmas time. And I think this is why it was really busy there. New York's known for the storefronts, the shopping, all that stuff, window shopping, the displays. Chicago is known for the Christmas bar.
So the Christmas bar, or is it multiple Christmas bars?
Yeah, it seems like most bars do a Christmas thing, or there's a lot of them. Definitely in Wrigleyville, we ended up going out there. I had done a reservation. If you want to do this, get a reservation, months out as soon as it opens up. We got a reservation. There was a line of over an hour at every bar that had done a Christmas thing for people to get in. We walked right in and skipped the whole line and everything. So we did one at the Bamboo Club, which is out by Wrigley Field, and they called it Santa Baby. Like right next door was Elfed Up. So a guy dresses as elf and it's like kind of buddy themed and everything. And then down the street was a thing called Happy Camper that looked really cool. So every little bar in the area, plus the ones out by the hotel, like Irish pubs and stuff, turned all Christmassy. And I'm talking like balls to the walls. You feel like you're in the middle of surrounded by wrapping paper and and presents, and you're like inside a Christmas tree. It was insane. If you really like Christmas, I think this is worth going to Chicago for and checking out. You could even like set it up, like stagger your times. You get an hour and a half inside there. They have unique drinks that they're doing for this. And then since we were in a tiki bar, they also had tiki drinks and of course beer and all the normal stuff. But you could stagger it where you're like, I'm going to this one at 1:30, this one at 3, this one at 4:30, and bar hop it a bit. You get an hour and a half time to sit there before they scoot you on your way. And then at the one we were at had a second floor thing too, which we didn't go to. That once you leave your table, you can pay $15 to get up there. You get an extra 2 hours up there, and you get a free drink ticket. So most of the drinks were $15 or more. So you could do that, and it was kind of unique and definitely worth going for if you want to do this type of thing. Everybody was like dressed up in Christmas sweaters and wearing hats and all kinds of stuff. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I hadn't heard anything about these Christmas overlays. Obviously, a lot of bars do Christmas stuff, but this sounds like a whole different level in an ecosystem where they're all working together. And I love Christmas bars. I love going into a bar that has Christmas decorations. On our Vegas show, we talked about Silver Stamp here, who does a pretty good one, but this seems like even a level above that and all over the city. So I don't know. I feel like I have to go.
Times 100. Like that's what, like there's no, you can't even see what was on the wall before. It's all covered. I don't know how long it takes them to do these things. I think the one we went to was one of the better ones from what I could see in windows and everything. I would definitely go there. Or the Happy Camper looked like another cool one. And then there's one scattered around town. But this is like a well-known Chicago thing. I think that's why it was really busy there. And we had a lot of fun. You can take kids in too up until whatever the cutoff is. I think it's like 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. or something like that. So no problem taking them. They have, we did a mocktail. My son got a mocktail of Jack Frost, and my daughter got like a souped up hot chocolate and stuff. So they had a lot of fun. Christmas music the whole time. Every TV has like a fireplace going with a Christmas tree next to it and snow falling. Just a really cool experience.
'Tis the season. Yeah, I think this is incredible. I mean, the Christmas market, even though it's not great, it's one thing you can do. It seems like Chicago does Christmas right, and that's something cool too. I haven't done it enough, like gone to enough cities to experience their holiday festivities, their wintertime stuff. But yeah, I think Chicago's on my list now. It sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely go check that out. And then we, to finish off the trip or the night, we walked a little bit. It was like 7/10 of a mile further down from Wrigleyville. It's called Zaza's, Zaza Pizzeria. Just a small little like takeout place. They had like 4 or 5 tables in there. Did a New York style pizza. Really, really good. Probably my second favorite pizza I've had in Chicago. I'm not a huge Chicago deep dish fan, although they have some very good ones there. So I would put this above all that. As we've talked, I think we've talked about on this show, the thin crust Chicago pizza is garbage. So anybody that says try it, don't. But
But make all the Chicago people mad because that's what they love. They love the thin crust.
If you love that pizza, go somewhere else and try pizza because it's not good. And but Zaza's is really good. Pequod's is still my favorite, which is like a mix between Detroit style and Chicago style. That's a really good one. Get a reservation if you want to go there and check it out. A cool little spot, and definitely one of the better pizzas I've had.
Well, sounds like amazing trip, and Chicago for Christmas is on my radar. Leave a comment. Let us know what you guys think about anything we talked about. His trip, Long Beach. Have you ever been to that area? Getting charged at the gate, the commissions. Did you know that they're making so much money on those gate bags? Leave a comment. We do 2 shows a week. We do our new show on Wednesday, so look forward to that. This is Monday, our podcast where we talk about our travels, what we're doing in the miles and points space, and all of that. And make sure to subscribe to the channel. Help us out. Help us grow. Thanks so much for watching and listening.
Have a good week, everybody, and we'll see you on Wednesday.